Okay. I saw over here that it was recording. Let's see. I have my specs on because, you know, gotta see what's going on. But I think I can take these off now. So I'm coming off the cuff. First time in recording. I don't know. Face is itchy. My hair, you know. Awkward. Okay. Let's have some coffee. Because I'm ready for coffee. So, how are you? I know it's been kind of like a while since I got on the microphone, and I think it's been a pretty long while since I've been on this microphone. And I've never filmed with this camera in the kitchen because that's where I am. So I'm hoping that the setups get better. And let's see. That is good. That's real good. Yeah. Yeah. I brewed this coffee that I ground at Trader Joe's, right? But I think their grinders were kind of like wonky. Because I don't know, they're just all jacked up, and I use them anyway. It felt kind of cool, you know. Because once I learned how to use a coffee grinder, like in a store, I was like, this is amazing. But long story short, I think I know that I ground them like way too coarsely. But on top of that, like the beans themselves are kind of like, you ever notice how like some beans are like cardboardy? Like some you grind, and I don't know if this is a grinder or not, but some you grind, or some grounds like espresso and stuff just come like rich and like dark in color and just really good. Don't mind the angry fridge. But these grounds were kind of like ashy, you know? Like I know I ground them like, I know I'm going off right now, but I can talk about stuff like this because I just don't understand what the problem was, you know? But to finish that up, like some of the, you know, grounds were like lighter in color and darker in other places instead of being like consistently like just rich looking. So, yeah, but that's how I am. Like if I feel like there's something that I need to figure out, or if there's something to figure out. Let me make sure this is still recording. Okay. Because, you know, I guess I can put these on and I can actually like see. But and I don't know how the glare is going to work, but hopefully I'm looking at my viewfinder or my LCD screen, I guess, and I'm seeing myself, but my tripod is going like, my tripod neck covers like 50 or 60% of it. But anyway, yeah, if I feel like there's something that needs to be like thought of, even if it's ridiculous, I spend sometimes too much time thinking about it. But, you know, I have a pretty good track record for figuring out that there was something that I missed. So, I don't know. I think a lot, you know. And what I do is I think and I consider and I like put things like in their storage areas in their mind. And what I'm learning is that I'm extremely compartmentalized, like very much so. Like my food, that was one thing. Like my food, like some areas I like, you know, I don't like things to touch sometimes, but then there's also like the proportions of like different amounts, and this is all simple and probably really common, but it was a reflection of like another part of my psyche that just put things into like packages, you know? And sometimes I'm wrong about these packages, but anyway, that's just something that came up recently. I guess something that was pretty cool that came up recently was I finished a new portrait and I'm really happy with it. And you know, and it takes me a long time to process things, sometimes years. That's another thing that came up. Like when I finished this portrait, I looked back at the last portrait that I did, and it seemed like my mind digested the information. Because when I looked at the other portrait that I did, the first one, like the first digital portrait on my iPad Pro in Procreate, I looked at the original, the first one, and I was like, I really like that. I thought it was full of mistakes, and I was like, well, you know, next time I'm going to correct these things, and in time it'll get better. But it really was true that the, like, painterly quality that I have in my digital work, like, it held fast, you know? Like, I saw what that meant when I looked at the original one, because the original one is a little bit looser, a little bit more like paint strokey, and the most recent one I did of the same person, it was like I had a tighter feel, less like, it still had like an impressionistic feel to it, but slightly more realistic, but you know, than the one that was more impressionistic. So, but when I looked at the newest one, I really liked it. I really enjoyed what was accomplished in that piece, which was like a little bit more control, like I think within the software. Oh, biggest thing was getting the skin color to be a little bit more lifelike and a little bit more accurate, because I went kind of dark with the first one. But the thing is, like, I haven't really been shooting for like accuracy when it comes to like skin color in my portraits. Like, I did a portrait of myself, like I was gonna say a self-portrait, and then myself came out at the same time. But like I did one, and when I did it, I made myself like a lot darker, but I didn't really care, and I put green, I put all kinds of colors like that I don't think are like in that piece of fuzz. I thought one of my stones had cracked, and then I saw the crack like moving, and I realized it was fuzz. I was using cotton balls earlier, so I think that's what went on. But anyway, so I made myself like super dark, but I didn't really care, because I feel like using a whole bunch of colors in skin is like interesting, and it's a sign of my laziness that I have masked as being okay because it's art. It's okay because I'm an artist and this is art and it doesn't matter. But ultimately, it is a sign of laziness, and not accomplishing or executing the proper color, you know? Just leave it alone, get the tones right. And that worked, you know, like the laziness still being in there has a degree of uncool in it. But I mean, what do you say? It still works. You know, like, what do I say? Like, I'm not saying like, well, you know, what do you say to that? You know, like, but it's more like it works in the end, and it's interesting. So I think maybe digitally, I'll be going more for like accuracy and realism when it comes to like complexion tones, complexion colors, colors within the skin, what the skin color looks like in life or in the picture. Prefer to paint in life, but that's another topic I'll get to in a little bit. So, um, but I think when I get back to painting, I can go back to that free world, because another thing is like when I'm painting, I try not to, excuse me, waste too much paint. Um, I try to use, and it's not a matter of waste because all of it pretty much expires at the same time. Like when I drop paint into my palette, you know, I store it with plastic wrap in the freezer in between painting sessions, and that usually helps it like my weekly breathe summary. I actually like the breathe app, you know. I like finding out what my heartbeat beats per minute is, you know. But anyway, that's kind of like random. But you know, so I store my paint. I store my oil paints in the freezer with plastic wrap over it because it helps them stay fresher longer. And once they reach their like end point, the whole palette pretty much needs to be scraped out. Sometimes if I catch it like right before everything like totally like dehydrates, I'll just use that in like different ways within my paintings. And that's something else that happened. Like in this self-portrait, when I'm like throwing up this like apple, I did this like when I was in undergrad, like in the early 2000s, right? And I was scraping my paint and I was just like, well shoot, let me put this on my canvas, you know, because it might be a cool texture, but I can use it and it's better than throwing it away. And it turned out to be like really cool. So I don't know. That's kind of how like that weird rainbow in the skin thing turns out. But that self-portrait that I did, it's like the winter. It's like was done in the winter like a couple years ago. Um, that was taken from like multiple photographs of myself just for like reference. Like I started with one and I don't know what happened. I don't know if I was looking in a mirror and then I blended what I had already done from the photograph, excuse me, with that. I just took a whole bunch of photographs because I did it over such like a long amount of time that I think that like the reference just became like, all right, let's just go from memory on this. The same thing with this like horse painting that I did. I started it like 1 year, and then I didn't continue it for like another year and a half. And by that time, like I thought that the photograph was gone. So then I like harvested photographs, and that happened I think twice, once or twice. But then after I had like finished the painting, and I may even go back to it now because what happened was that I found the painting when the photograph, I found the photograph when I was cleaning up my hard drives and like external hard drives from like junk files. So now everything is clean across the board. I found my photo reference. Might go back to that painting. Who knows? And yeah, I'm looking forward to more digital work. I thought I was going to like do more regularly, but I think I get like a little intimidato of my iPad. Like I look at it and it's like, this is gonna be some work. And it's really not. Because once I get there, it's really fun. I still think I have like remnants of the pressure I put on myself, and that's good. But the part that makes things unfun, that part I have to release. So, I did a first page of like, I guess you can call it a comic. It's like manga style, but ultimately it's like, I guess it's not like a comic strip. I don't know what to call. Hold on. Let me give my camera a place to look. But it's doing pretty good on the focus situation. Now if I keep my posture proper, like it'll be better. But this is pretty good, because I know usually when I'm using this camera it's like just non-stop lens movement action. So but yeah, I don't know if you call it finished, and I definitely don't think you can call it manga. Like, manga just goes into like this world, this dimension of like art that there's a lot of specifics, a lot of like high grade specifics. And what I'm doing is kind of like telling a story through pictures, but it's not like a storyboard. It's not like manga. It's not like a comic strip, because a comic strip is like comedy. So like going back to what I was starting with, I don't know what to call these things. I guess you can call it manga, because I used to think that it could only come from Japan and everything outside was a comic strip. But now that I'm thinking about it, that's not like accurate, because like comic strips, like if you look at like the comic strips in the newspaper, they're almost all comedy. And I'm guessing that's where the word comic came from. And if you are a comic, like you're like a stand-up comedian or something like that. So I don't know, but I know I'm definitely not drawing in a manga style. And I would like to develop characters that have like a cartoon look, you know, cartoon meaning like not realistic. What I'm doing now is more going towards realism, and that's not really what I want to do. So I think my next course of action is to kind of like develop like a cartoon or a manga type style. I always felt like I was copycatting like the Japanese like artists who do manga, you know, because I think, and this is me being judgmental, and I think it's time for me to release this, but I used to get like irritated at people, especially like on Instagram, that constantly are doing like manga inspired things, especially when it goes into like the direct copying. I'm always like, you know, get your own style, like these camera angles that you're doing, I've seen them and all of this. But sometimes I would like their end work. And it was a hard thing because, you know, I think it goes back into like my sensitivity of like cultural appropriation, being of the races that I am, living here in the States. You have a lot of people who bite the styles of other people. Mainly, almost everyone bites the style of black people here. And you wind up seeing like black slang being used. I've talked about this all the time, but it's a deal, because you have cats that have never hung around anyone black or brown or anything, and you have them like copying and mimicking what they do, but they don't like chill. And maybe they want to chill. People in other countries, to me it's like kind of different, because they're like wanting to be a part of a culture that's like somewhere else. And that's kind of where people who like, you know, what I would say before, plagiarize manga pretty much, that's kind of where they're coming from. But and I'm talking about my therapy right now, you know, because I know I'm in the wrong here. I know I am. But where that was coming from, and there's no excuse at all, I just have to get rid of it. But like, you have people who are using slang, and it'll show up on, like, you know, the red carpet, you know, mainstream, like, predominantly white programming, and it won't be used correctly. But then you see how, like, the media, like how they respect black culture, and there's like little to none, but there's a lot of taking of like the music and the style and the lifestyle and you know, the words, the slang, even movements and stuff. You have a whole lot of people like on TV doing stuff, and you know, especially like the media, like what they like to do is they like to put like black culture and surround it over like a white girl. So, you know, and that's fine, but I think it happens so much now that it goes to a level of like extreme disrespect. So, when I looked at people like copying like manga a lot, I looked at that being like a similarity. And I guess there's a fine line, because I can totally understand wanting to like practice art in that style, because it's like totally awesome, and it's like a definitely a dedicated practice. But I think my problems were with people who would just draw characters that looked like the typical looking manga character, and it's like almost like they're passing it off as their own, you know? Like fan art is one thing, but like right now there's an epidemic of like the whimsy girl on, you know, Instagram, and you know, others like it, and so there's things that are like in this style that are like unique and really well done, and they take on like a life of their own, and it's really beautiful when you see it, because you see where the inspiration came from. And then you have the other ones, the majority, who just pretty much like, you know, copy what they see. There's a big difference between like following a traditional kind of path. You know, there are distinct qualities to manga characters and the layout of the pages and things like that. But there's another aspect where, you know, you think about things. You know, you could tell that there was like thought and consideration and like a unique quality, versus pretty much copying exactly what someone else did and then being like, I am the greatest. Did you see what I just did here? This is amazing. You really should worship me right now. You really, I mean, come on. Have you ever... I don't know what that's about. But anyway, let's get this party started. I'm about to tell a story. I guess this is going to be part 2. But yeah, I used to run with these artists, right? And run by like, you know, we used to hang out at like one of the homies' studios. We used to go like drinking together, sometimes art shows. Basically, you know, just artists like you remember like the Warhol kind of time, you know, or Van Gogh. Like I've been like researching Van Gogh. It's very interesting. I guess because I've been following the Van Gogh Museum on Instagram, and they tell stories about like his letters to people. But you know, it's basically, it was just like artists who kind of like mingled together. You know, we would each have our like outside lives, but as artists we'd come together as like a different kind of group. So there was a couple people, and actually there was one person in particular, and I was warned, let me make sure this is still recording. I was warned that he was the type to bite people's styles. And what I mean by that is like copy people, like mimic them. And mimicking is not even a bad thing, because I like to, like, I would love to be more like some people, and I definitely am like, dude, I'm totally gonna use that, you know. I hope that I pay homage in a way that is apparent, but it's another way to, like, basically be like, yoink, that's mine, taking that with me, and then play it off like what they took never existed. That's that bullshit. That's the bullshit. When you just, when you nab, hide, steal, appropriate, play it off. What are you talking about? Like, I remember that I was warned because they had done this to, like, all the other artists, you know, and it was to a point where they were talking about it, like, to a point where they were, like, irritated about it. But then it happened to me, you know, like, there I am. I made a public, hello? Mr. or Mrs. Lens. Maybe it's because I'm going into the light. I prefer to go into the light, but maybe it's making my camera just not want to deal. But what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, man, I made this post on, like, one of the social media accounts. This was like 10 years ago, and I remember going to this person's page or having it up, like, show up on my feed or something like that, and what I did to, like, a T was, like, there. And this person and I didn't talk like that. Like, we hardly spoke at all, you know. Like, hi, bye, you know. And at this time, we hadn't been speaking, like, at all, you know. This was, like, years after all of us would hang out together and all of that. And, you know, it showed up on this person's, like, you know, post that, you know, they did something, like, within, like, less than a week of me, and it was like the exact same thing that I had just done. And I was like, dude, I had to block this person. I was like, man, I'm outie. Like, if you find me on the web, I had to take a drink on that one, man. Even though it's like old, I'm over it, but still, like, whatever, man. But I'm like, if you find me on the web and you bite my style from, like, afar, that's one thing. But I was like, I can't even deal with this person just having direct access to, like, my livelihood. And I don't even mean that by, like, earning money. It's just, I'm very protective over my personal space. Ones I love and our world. And so for, like, somebody who is just, like, you know, for anyone who is, like, not welcome, it's one thing if I post publicly, like, I make a conscious decision to, like, post publicly, and I know what I'm getting myself into when I do that, and it's a choice that I make, and that I'm happy with, you know, because I know the, you know, consequences, the pros, the cons, you know, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. When it comes especially to, like, my personal life, I don't like gumbos being close to that, like, at all. You know, like, I don't need some person who does nothing with their life, but they spend their time playing I Spy with my little eye what JT is doing, like, all the time. And they're, like, not doing anything with themselves, you know. And I've seen this happen, like, people like this just, like, bite the style and kind of, like, have these silent temper tantrums, you know, like, they see you, like, doing something and they kind of, like, copy it and, like, you know, low-key bash you at the same time. And it's just like, that's just like a nasty combination, man. Just, like, just go, you know, just go somewhere, get lost, don't come back, leave me alone, and that's it, you know, like, we're done. And but those who are close to me, I'm like, I'll share everything. You want to know like my tools that I use, the kind of pencils, pens, techniques, thought process. You want to see my work when I'm like nowhere near being done. You want to look at my work when I'm not around and it's not complete. You want to go through my phone. You want to go through my tablet. You want to go through my computer. You want to go through my notebook. You want to go through my journal. You want to go through my drawers. You want to go through my jewelry box, my closet, that box in the back that kind of looks kind of suspicious. You can go through that too. You can go through my suitcases. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm an open book totally. But I'm like a fucking beast when it comes to some scallywags tiptoeing around my territory. Our territory. You know, my family's territory. You know, and blood relatives aren't family. That's just that. Like, that's some other bullshit that people are fooled into, like, being, like, believing. But I was fooled too, because I was thinking, like, you know, in the Bible it mentions forsaking, and I used to, like, look up all the time. Let me make sure this is recording still. Okay. I don't know why it stopped recording the first time. Don't know. Hope that doesn't turn into, like, a lost tape. But anyway, I had to like look up the word like forsake over and over and over, and like really like keep on like, you know, doing searches on the word in the Bible, praying about it, because I didn't want to go against the Lord. But I did recognize that there was some bullshit going on, and I came, like, as the studies went on, the Bible described certain spirits as being a certain way. And when people have that spirit is them. They've chosen to let that spirit abide in them and manifest itself in them, or manifest in them and then abide. Like, they chose that route. And that route is like them being basically the Antichrist. And that sounds like, you know, so out there. You know, you hear it in like these movies and prophecy stuff, the Antichrist, and you just imagine like some crazy like grim reaper, you know, with an inverted whatever on his head and just, you know, talking backwards and stuff. And it's like, it's really more simple than that. Like, it started with, you know, the Bible, because I would pray about these things a lot. So when I would read the Bible, you know, God would answer. And the words that really stood out about people were like the unrecognized, ones who are devoid of the Spirit. There was another word, but these are all like biblical words describing people who have chosen to go in that direction. And that direction, to me, that direction means witchcraft, so devil worship, basically like walking arm in arm with Satan. And what's strange and unusual is a lot of cats believe in witchcraft and voodoo, but they don't believe in God. And for one, you know, if someone's just learning about stuff, that's totally cool. But what I mean are the people who are like really satanic practitioners. And they don't, it's like, I had this idea. It's like a person is like reading a book, and it's like the book of life, you know, like they're born into this world, and it's like, boop, here I am. All right, here's this book. Choose what you want to do. Let me know. It'll be great. And so the person's like, oh, the book of life. This is going to be great. Oh, okay. Can be a carpenter. That's fine. Judge. Ooh, okay. So maybe a lot of work. Let's see. Oh, they're getting into character traits. Liar. I don't know about that one, but it doesn't seem too bad, you know. But let's keep on looking. Ah, witchcraft, satanic practitioner. Yeah, okay. Disclaimer. Um, with this choice, you are making a covenant with Satan, and in turn, you will pay for this with your life. Sincerely, the devil. And then they're like, put a circle around that one, and they're like, they made that choice. Like, woo, that's, they're saying like, that's their choice, and I'm like, dude, that's crazy. I won't say the words that I would really want to say if I was acting like them. I won't even let that come out of my mouth. I'd rather just kill the scene. I can't even go that route. But you have cats that are like making that kind of decision, and it's like, okay, you believe in the power, you've witnessed the power, but you don't really connect the dots. And that's what came up like lately. Like, I don't know. What I learned is that these things are usually passed down. So you have like, this place where you're coming from, where, if you're that person who's not, you have to take the opportunity to like choose something else. You have to like kind of see like, well, that's how I don't want to be. So, you know, but back to the blood relatives thing, like, and leading to the Antichrist. The next thing that I read was like people who are against Jesus Christ, fundamentally, simply, it's just they're the Antichrist. We're not talking about people who just like don't believe. We're talking about people who are like working against. I guess just believe is just like another thing, And then my scriptures turned into, all right, no more consideration for these nonsensical people. They've dug their graves, they've made their beds, and now they have to like live within the confines of the world that they made for themselves and that has been sealed, like eternally. Because I think right now in 2020, we're coming up on this time. There's been like a lunar eclipse. There's something happening with, I think, Pluto and another planet meeting in Capricorn, and something else is like, coming out of retrograde, something that hasn't happened like for 500 years. And I haven't learned that much about, I don't know that much about astrology yet. But basically there's a lot of things that are happening in the stars. And I think what is happening is that it's like wrapping up this time of like leniency that the bullshitters have been allowed to partake in. And now that it's over, now all of them, all their bullshit is floating to the surface. They're getting exposed. Their words have been made ineffective. Their voices are muted. Their minds are dulling. Everything that they do and say that worked against other people before is now just working against them and taking them to their destruction even faster. So, and for the other people, like people who have just been cool, I think at the very least, it's a time of huge prosperity, because a lot of that other stuff has immediately evaporated away. So that within itself is like a relief, So, but that's the new chapter. It's like the no more thoughts. One of my resolutions for the new year was to have zero thoughts towards the unrecognized and the void, like literally. And now the scriptures are kind of like, let me tell you about this good stuff over here. Before I was kind of being schooled about like, the nonsensical, because like I started this video, the compartmentalization of considerations or subjects. These people, remember how I said like I sometimes like over process things, but it's kind of like because I knew that there was something else to like find out. That kind of happened recently. That's how I discovered that's how the generational thing got really explained or defined for me, because I kept on considering a stupid person, but what I found is that their mother was stupid too. Stupid meaning choosing the way of witchcraft and then trying to play it off like nothing happened. And I started to see similarities in their lives, and it was just kind of like I started like recognizing, the areas in their life that Satan was, collecting on. Like my grandma, she would never talk about like her life, but she was like an extreme racist, and my mom's an extreme racist, which is funny because she like married somebody who was majority black, so I'm kind of like, this is ridiculous, but that's how it is. A lot of racists, they listen to like, they are all about the cultures of the people that they hate on. It's really weird. I'm like, dude, all these African sculptures, Motown, all your black friends that you're like, oh, she's black, but she's nice. Like, just let it go, and I've seen that consistently on both sides, like black and white. What was I gonna say? My grandma, like, she wound up contracting polio. And at first I thought it was kind of like the vaccine and where she was born and all this kind of stuff. But then she got bacterial meningitis. So the polio put her in a wheelchair, and so she was paralyzed. And then the bacterial meningitis took her hearing. And then she wound up being like bedbound for like years in the hospital before she died. And she died like late. And I didn't really piece these things together until I started, I'm getting an update about Bernie Sanders telling Elizabeth Warren that a woman couldn't win the presidency. These updates are strange. But anyway, yeah, the updates are just weird. Because sometimes, like, I get these updates right now, and sometimes I get, like, them pretty frequently. And I'm going to get back to what I was saying. But, sometimes they just talk about nonsense stuff. Like, on Twitter, like, I wish they would get rid of the celebrity part, or at least let me choose what I want to see. Because sometimes stuff is just, like, force-fed. Like, you want to take part, in this entity, like, I want to use CNN to get notifications, but then I wound up hearing about some silly pop culture stuff that's totally ridiculous and about people who I don't care about. But anyway, I'm off topic. I digress. But I started seeing the same like manifestation in her daughter, like rashes, a wart, and then it came to me like, this is what witches are about, like, you ever notice how witches, like, in pictures have like a wart and a long nose and they have a certain look? They start looking like that. And I think it really is like a manifestation of a demonic spirit, because like I see it, I'm like, dude, that's like off. And what happens is like you have to kind of like prevent the spirit from getting to you, because a lot of things like come up, like these different little spirits of like interference, provoking, anger, fear, like all of these little things, they start floating around these people, and they usually use that as a tactic. And what came to my mind was that I really think that my grandma taught my mom how to use fear and words to manipulate or attempt to manipulate people's minds and keep them in this state of like being oppressed and controlled. And what I'm noticing is with that being broken, these people kind of implode. You can see it with President Trump, like killing Soleimani. Now they're playing it off in the in the media, but I'm not sure. I tend to think. I mean, it seems like it's real, but I'm still having problems talking about like the U.S. government, like it could be surprised or, like anything they say is truthful. But I do think that he did pull a fast one on people, and that it threw them off. And I think that it was like a Hail Mary, like last effort to of panic, and that's what I'm noticing with these people, is that they're starting to implode. Like, Trump has so much shit surrounding him, and what's happening is that these people who are imploding, what is going on is that they are taking their followers with them. So if you see people who are like in the Senate, who are like getting on the microphone, like supporting Trump and making excuses for everything that he's been doing, they're going down with the ship. Like, that's another thing that's happening. People who like I guess conspire with people like this, even if they're not doing the same things, they usually are in their lives in some way. Okay. Yeah, my bad. I think where was I? But like, repent meaning like I had to like tell God I was sorry and ask for forgiveness, because I realized I wasn't talking too badly about this person, but I realized I was getting sucked into this like realm, because even if someone did something to like fuck up over here and it causes their world to be bad and it's all their own doing, and the spirit world starts coming for them, and you can kind of see it, like you can just tell that they're going through some shit. That starts making their feelers go out. They wind up starting to talk about everyone more badly. They start to do whatever, and they'll take anyone down who's like willing to participate. So and I was in this place where I hadn't really gotten mentally to a point where I was like all right, I was still like worried about things and unsure and learning, and like worried about like how am I gonna get out of this place, like gosh, like regret about not having left and things like that. But then everything worked like cool, and but at that time, it's easy to kind of like fall into like a mental pit, and you just want to kind of bitch about stuff. So, but yeah, like all these little people who are supporting, and back to the Trump thing, people who are like out there really supporting him, like, I don't care what you have to say about the economy. And why do people talk about the economy being all boosted, but they don't talk about this extreme debt that he's added to the national debt? It doesn't make any sense to me. And I saw a good quote somewhere, like, people are questioning, where's the money going to come for healthcare and education and this, but no one questions where the money comes from for sending thousands of troops back into the Middle East. like, all this hypocrisy, like, all of this, like, oh, well, it's protecting our country from wars that they started. Like, it's one thing to, like, you know, want to be peaceful, but this shit's way past peaceful. Like, we're way past, like, anything being done for peace by the United States and the Middle East. That's all about oil. That's just it. And so they make it seem like, oh, well, we're protecting you. We won't even talk about 9/11. We won't even go there. Like, you know, but basically they're playing off their fuckery as being something that we should be scared about. We the people, the citizens, should be afraid of, because it's their bullshit that they started for their own political and capital gain. I hope we don't play that anymore, man. Like, that bridge is over. We're done with this. Like, I'm gonna be so afraid. Oh, the war is coming. It's not. No. People are just done with corrupt leaders. You know? That's why people like the spirit world now. They don't realize what's over them. I think they're beginning to learn, though. And whether they want to take heed or not doesn't matter. All of that is like way below the spirit world. So on that note, I'm gonna go and try and piece this thing together and hope all the footage made it. But yeah, the bridge is over. Bitches are going down. Oh, they're going down by themselves. And it's not like someone's gonna come and like come for them. Like, they're doing it to themselves. Like, how can you not think that karma is not real? How can you? It's just crazy. It is crazy. On a side note, why is Harvey Weinstein walking with a walker? Is this like really him like having a meltdown and like losing everything, like his bodily functions? Or is this like him trying to like play the card of, I'm an old man, you need to take care of me? Like, that's another thing. A lot of cats are getting old and they're thinking that they're gonna get this free card. I've mentioned this before, but I gotta say it again. Like, there ain't no kind of free card for an old person who's been fucking with people their entire life. Nah. If anything, things will be worse. Because you had all this time to, like, do the right thing. It never gets old. But anyway, I'm gonna go. But it's been fun. And it has always been fun. So, and it has been real. See you next time. Bye.